once you make $1 million, you understand how little $1 million is.
We can do more.
Man, do I really want to keep doing this?
This changed my life.
The vision needs to be big enough to be able to get there.
All right, so we have here the owner and founder of Eternal Life Services, Mr. Nelson Ferrod. What's going on, my brother? How you doing?
What's going on, man?
So happy to have you here, bro.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. So Nelson, what we're going to be doing today, man, is we're going to kind of, obviously you have a very successful, thriving business, and I think...
Thank you. That's thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, and you're in a position that a lot of people want to be in, right? But a lot of people, typically, they'll just see, you know, the cool things you do and the events you host and how you guys are growing. But a lot of them don't know what it takes to get there, and obviously we want to shine some clarity on that.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll kind of just walk them through your whole journey from beginning to end, and not to end because it's not over yet, but to where you are today and where you're going.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So let's start with where were you born, how were you raised, let's kind of go through your upbringing, and we'll lead right into
Believe it or not, I was born in Cuba. I came here around five years old.
Okay.
Believe it or not, we came here. We were here in Miami for like a week, and then we ended up moving to Tampa.
Really?
And this was Tampa before all the buildings, before there was a lot of green land in Tampa back then.
It's like in the 90s, no?
Yeah, in the 90s, a lot of green land. And we were there for like a year. And then we moved to Wisconsin, man.
Wisconsin?
Yeah, like Badger Nation up there, Green Bay. We moved up there. My family, my dad and my mama had some family up there. So we go up there for 4 years. Then we come back down here. Grew up, I say lower middle class. I don't know, maybe you know the apartments. Coral Haven, they're...
Of course, 102 on Crowway, no?
102 in Crowway. 102 in Crowway.
Yeah.
That was the hood back then, you know? Grew up in something that you don't see nowadays, Joseph.
Yeah.
In that building at that time, man, there was at least 30 or 40 kids that after school, everybody would come outside. And you don't see that now. And it was such a good environment to grow in because you started to understand how people were from little.
Right.
And you started to see people's characteristics, and you started to see how people developed as they grew, right? And you socialize, something that not only kids do when they go to school or if they're in one of these travel teams or something like that. So that was the childhood. Grew up there, Coral Haven, for like 15, almost 20 years there. We were almost for a bit.
So how old were you when you moved to Miami? For the second, like from Wisconsin?
I was like 9 years old, man.
Okay. So you were in elementary school still, no?
Yeah, elementary. I did 4th and 5th grade
Got
here
it.
after I came back. Bro, time flies, bro.
Yeah.
So we were there. End up we went to Cole Park.
Yeah.
You went to Cole Park too, right?
I think, yeah, we did.
Yeah. So we went to Cole Park. And out of Cole Park, I was like, how do I make money fast?
So you were already
Basically.
thinking this in high school?
Yeah. I was like, how do I make how do I start making money already? So I decided to do the police academy because back then, 2008, 2009, if you were making 70 grand a year, you were living like a king here in Miami. Yeah. Back then. Now.
So pause there. So we're going to go through this through parts because you said a lot there that I actually do care to know. First thing I want to know is how did a Cuban family did your parents speak English?
My dad did.
Okay. Survive in Wisconsin. How did you guys fit in?
We didn't, man. There's not a lot of Cubans in Wisconsin.
And not today in 2024. Definitely not in the 90s.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of Cubans in Wisconsin. Believe it or not, there's a lot of Mexicans.
Yeah.
So once you leave Miami, because Miami is like a melting pot, right? You have Cubans, Venezuelans, Colombians, Mexicans, South America, Venezuela, all these things all mixed in here. Once you leave, that you go to some place like Wisconsin, Hispanic, you're considered a Mexican.
Yep.
That's it,
Yeah,
right?
I've dealt with that.
So you go up there, and my dad spoke English.
Okay.
Like machucado, but he spoke English.
He defended, so, yeah.
But my mom didn't speak in English, so they worked at a warehouse. And back then, if you were making 10 or 11 bucks in the early 2000s, like 2000, 1999, 2000, you were making 10, 11 bucks an hour, working your full time, you had your benefits. You could live however you want.
You were a working class family.
Yeah, you were a working class family. We had our cars, we had our apartment. Joseph, back then, a 2-2 apartment up there was $450.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Even when we came down to Miami in the early 2000s, a 2-2 was like $800.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
I caught the tail end of that. I remember that.
Yeah, doesn't
My first
exist.
apartment was $950 for a 2-bedroom in Kendall.
Yeah?
When I was like 19 years old. So yeah,
I never caught that.
Yeah, I did for a little bit. It was falling apart though.
It was falling apart.
I got it for cheap.
No, you got it for cheap.
All right,
for
so
sure.
you got into high school and you started, realizing you wanted to make some money.
Yeah.
And then did you ever consider going to college?
I did, but for like a semester.
Yeah.
I couldn't concentrate, man.
Did you go? I asked this question because this happened to me. Because your mom made you go, like to not let them down, or you went because you wanted to? That you have the choice?
No, I went because of society. Everybody's like, "Oh, go do."
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. But it wasn't for me. It's too restrictive.
Yeah.
You have to go and you have to do geometry or some science. I'm like, how is this going to be beneficial to my life?
I had a business degree. I'm like, why do I gotta take freaking humanity? Like I don't want to. Like I don't care about it. Or like aerospace science. Dude,
but what does that have to do with business?
100%. Like it made zero sense. All these prereqs. I'm with you. If they skip prereqs, more people will have degrees.
More people have to.
Yeah.
I think they have to start putting, at least in the college part, more skills. Something that you 100%. Can have skills, and they have to start implementing financial literacy
in high school. Honestly,
in high school, in middle school. In middle school, you gotta have financial literacy class, which like I think we can all agree upon that most of our parents don't have the financial literacy that you need to actually be successful in
our system.
In our system. Yeah. In the U.S. system. Yeah. In the U.S. system.
For sure. All right. So you graduated high school. You signed up for the police academy.
Yeah.
Did you apply to there? Like, how did it work back then? Did you like become a graduate the academy and apply for jobs or?
So back then, man, when they weren't hiring because we were coming out of the recession.
Yep.
So the departments weren't hiring back then. Okay. So what did you do? You like this is funny. So I was in school. I was 19 years old and I was taking some classes in college, and my dad was like, "Look, if you do this police academy thing, you can become a police officer in 6 months." I was like, "What?"
Sounds better in 4 years.
It sounds good. So I decided I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do the police academy. But before then, I started doing some research, and I'm like, people are not being hired as police officers. Yeah. They're like, because before then, Joseph, police departments would hire you off the street and put you to
and pay you while you're at the academy, no?
Pay you while you're at the academy. So you would do that road, and it was easier to become a police officer. When I was starting to do it, they weren't hiring. So what did you do? You would do the police academy, have your things set. So then the police department, all they had to do was put you through the hiring process, and then they would be able to hire you, right? Throughout all that process, I'm working at Kmart when Kmart still existed. So I was working part-time at Kmart.
Which one?
The one on 117 and 8th Street. Yeah. That one went by. Well, it lasted. I think one of
that was the last one. That one, yeah.
It lasted forever. So
belly up.
I was there during the police academy. I was working at Kmart, making some extra cash, and I finished the police academy. I was 19 when I finished the police academy. I hadn't even turned 20 yet, and I started to go make some more money. I started working as a security guard at a mental facility. Okay. So it kind of gave me some experience before I got into police work. Hey man, mental facilities are no joke.
They're tough, right?
Yeah, they're tough.
Was it harder than being a cop?
It wasn't harder. It wasn't harder, but it kind of prepares you a little bit because you see a lot of stuff in there that you don't see on a regular basis.
Right.
Like you see homeless people that act like they're crazy because when you go into a mental facility and they actually admit you, you're admitted for 3 or 4 days and they pay for, so you have a bed, you have free meals, right? You are inside a nice building. You're not out in the street.
Yeah.
So you're there 3 or 4 days.
So they would act crazy to get like Baker acted basically. And
yes.
Not have to go to jail and say you go to a facility.
You go to a facility that you're basically in a little mini vacation from your outside world. You're inside and the funniest part is that it's all paid by the government.
Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah. And you're talking about the building, between all the employees, between the whole shebang. You're talking about
a lot of money, for sure.
A lot of money.
I don't remember the number, but same thing with like our jail system, which I know is
something like that. Very similar.
The cost per inmate is like insane. Yeah, I was like, holy.
I think it was like $75,000.
Yeah, it's expensive to like. That's insane.
That's insane.
Put these guys to work.
Yeah.
I mean, they do, but for cheap labor, and then they get 75 grand from us.
So,
it's all messed up, but okay. So how'd you get hired at the police academy then? Like, I mean, out of the police academy, how'd you end up
finishing the police academy, I started working security, got some experience in that. Then I applied for Mikosuke Police Department, right? Back then, the Mikosuke Police Department had a really, really bad rep. Like, they would hire you, and then 6 months you would be fired, things like that, because it wasn't. Let me use the word we're going on YouTube. Allegedly, they had a really bad rep, but you would get hired, and things would happen because the Mikosuke Police Department is a at-will police department that is run by the tribe.
Yeah, so it's self-governed in a sense.
Self-governed in a sense. So the police department responds to the tribe. Okay. So if you would do things or certain people didn't like you, you tended to you could have gotten in trouble for doing your job. Got it. So I applied there, and man, time just flew. I think a certain part of my life I got too comfortable because you're making decent money and you're not going through all the craziness that you have to deal with if you're a Miami-Dade or City of Miami. You still have your craziness. Don't get me wrong. You have your craziness, but not at the level that everybody.
Yeah, you're more, I guess, metropolitan department.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, yeah.
And what ends up happening is that I'm there after 7 years, I kind of knew, so I was there almost 10 years. The first 5, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a police officer. I'm going to get my experience here, and I'm going to bounce. And I'm going to go into Miami-Dade County, or I'm going to go to the city of Miami, or I'm going to go to one of these bigger departments, right? Within 5 years, I was like, okay, this is not working.
And you were there 5 years?
I was there for 10, but I'm saying...
Wow. I didn't even know you were there that long.
Yeah, I was there for a long time. But within the first, within that 5-year period, I started to say, this is not for me.
So you already knew that you had to do something else.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to be here for 30 years. Or I'm not going to go into another department and spend another 20 years doing this.
What was it about the job, or was it the money, the future? What made you feel that way?
Okay. So when you go into police work, you like to serve. Mm-hmm. You like to protect people. You like to do things that are good for the community. On top of that, the money's pretty decent for the job that you're doing, right? But in 2017, because I started in 2017, things started to change. You started to see the people lose the respect for law enforcement because of incidents, because of quote unquote race, right, this or that or the other, and you started seeing that the way people responded to police officers was not right. You would have, I would pull over people going 125 miles an hour, and they would talk to me like if I was doing something wrong.
Yeah, zero respect.
Zero respect. And kids, even worse. But let's say, so I started to notice that, and I'm like, this is not my thing. The violence started to go up, so you would have to get hands-on more. You would have to do things that I'm like, this is not.
Yeah, you don't see yourself doing that.
I don't see myself doing this for a long period of time. And I had already done it for 5 or 6 years. So at the 5 or 6 year mark, I start saying, you know what, I'm going to create a business. I read this book. It's called The 10X Rule. Grant Cardone. Probably the best book for anybody to read in their life. And that book came out like in 2010, 2009, 2011, sometime around there. Probably the best book anybody can read. I read the book and I was like, I'm going to create my own business. I created my own business and I started it with Gus, with my brother. We started it in 2019. That part takes, it was a little fearful, but I was like, I already have to start doing something that can supplement what I'm doing right now.
So you started the company with your brother in 2019. You were still a cop, right?
Yeah, I was still a police officer.
The police academy. You were trying to, I guess, build it to it made enough money so then you could leave.
So I can transition.
All right, and we're talking about ELS, right? That's what you're talking. So what made you want to get into home health?
So part of it was that my mom was a home health aide.
Okay.
So, and home health agencies at the time were treating home health aides really, really bad. So she would tell us stories about, hey, they do this, they do that, they don't pay on time, they take long to make the payments, they pay me $9 an hour, $10 an hour, and the conditions weren't the best, right? So I'm like, why not create one?
Did you have to go through a lot of like certs, paperwork? Like,
Yeah, 100%. Getting into healthcare. Yeah. So once I told my mom, I'm like, you know what? This is what I told my mom. I'm like, I'm going to create one. We're going to remove you from this. We're going to bring you out and we're going to retire you. Right? So I tell my mom that we create the company. It takes us like about a year to get all the stuff that we needed to actually start operating. Yeah. Partly took so long because we didn't know, not enough knowledge. Nobody wants to tell you anything.
Right.
Nobody wants to teach you. You have to look for it yourself. And in healthcare, when it comes to regulation, surveys, and all this stuff, you're on your own basically. So it takes us about a year to get actually everything to start operating. Once we start operating, COVID hits. All right. I'm with my wife, which was my girlfriend at the time. We start operating during COVID, man. And everybody's like, you know the SpongeBob meme when everybody's like that. Insurance companies don't know how to act. Yep. Clients don't know how to act. Like members don't know how to act. They don't know if they want the service, if they don't want the service.
You're a at-home service and you don't want anybody to come to your house.
You don't want anybody to, but you need the service.
Right.
Right? You have bedbound members.
Were the HHAs also scared of going to
the HHAs didn't want to work. Yeah. And partly it wasn't because of them being scared of going to work. It was because the government was giving out so much free money. Yeah. They were like, why am I going to go to work?
That was the hardest time to recruit anybody. People don't want to work.
People didn't want to work.
Yeah, nobody wanted to work. You're getting crazy unemployment money.
They were getting $1,500 every 2 weeks.
We're still paying it back now, but...
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my God, inflation. What you guys think was going to happen?
What do you think was going to happen? Joseph, you're giving people $1,500 a week to do nothing. I was like, incredible. But that was kind of like the beginning of
your journey.
Of the journey.
All right, so you and your brother go through this whole mission with your mom's help.
Yeah.
Obviously, your mom's been in HHA for a while, but she's more like on the HHA side.
On the HHA side.
The operational, getting like licenses and permit side. At what point were you ready? I know you said a year, but at what point were you ready? Who was the first HHA? Your mom? Did she recruit some of her friends to come over? How did you get that first client? And at what point did you make your first dollar?
So our first client was an autistic kid. Right, he was like 4 or 5 years old, and that was our first client. They took a chance with us. Our process was different. We were bringing more value to the member. And before we started this, people would get random people and send them to the house. So we were like, we need to change this. Remember Blue Ocean strategy? So we were like, we need to change. We need to personalize this a little bit more. You got to bring more customer service into this business, right? So we would start by going to the member's house and understanding them. Hey, okay, let me see where they live. What do you need? What type of person do you need? Let's see what you want. What qualifications do you want? So we started like that. And our first client was giving, because they give you a list. And one of the things and one of the businesses that we worked at, which is called the Medicaid waiver program, they give you a list of like case managers that you can call. And I would call that list every day. 2 or 3 days out of the week, I would finish the list, start again. Call until one person took a chance on us.
A case manager.
She's like, help us with this member. We have not been able to get an HHA for this client. This client wanted the aide to come with mask, gloves, didn't want the shoes to come into the house. Anything that you touched, you would have to wash. Very, very strict. Hand sanitizer all over the house. The house was very clean. The conditions were of the family were good, but the mom was very strict.
Yeah.
So they gave us a chance. Once they gave us a chance that we started to really understand how it was supposed to work, we started with a Medicaid waiver, and we got a couple clients there. But when our business really started to take off was when we got our first contract with one of the MCOs.
Got it.
The MCO stands for Managed Care Organization.
Okay.
They gave us our first contract, and they started giving us our first client.
Got it.
Once we showed that we could take care of that client, they started to send us clients left and right.
You guys, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but the whole idea was making a difference to where maybe your competitors were treating people like billable hours, where you guys were actually trying to come in and have a personalized relationship from what I see.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And, you know, we were off the air, but I was telling you, is how do you bring more value to the member and the plan at the same time? Or, like, how do you, the blue ocean strategy around there where you take in the most difficult clients and you show the plan, hey, we're here.
I can handle it.
I can handle it. I can provide services to people that you have not been able to provide services to. Yep. Right? Once once you can take care of people's problems, they come to you.
Yep. And then you started obviously becoming a household name at that point.
Yes.
Internally and the circles that you guys were running in. All right. So something that I've never told you, but I find cool is that I know a few people in your space.
Okay.
And I'm not too involved in their day-to-day, but I'll tell you what I see that I see you guys do different. And it's that most people are always, I even see that a lot of people hire like, I guess salespeople or kind of executives to go try to get more patients.
Yes.
But everything that I see from you guys is very tailored towards the HHAs.
Yes.
It seems that you guys make your HHAs priorities the top thing in the company. I even realized that all your content in social media, a lot of it goes towards your HHAs,
yes,
your events, everything. Can you speak a little bit to that strategy and why you're I won't say the only one, but the only one that I've seen that kind of takes that approach rather than trying to get more patients, because the patients are the ones that pay the bills at the end of the day.
Yes.
But you guys have focused kind of like on the employees or contractors that you're bringing on board.
The thing is that we wanted to make sure, because I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to make this industry, we're going to change it. We're going to change this industry and we're going to make it better for the home health aide. Because they've always treated the home health aide like un cero a la izquierda. Mm-hmm. They've never, in the industry, they've never actually tried to educate them. Once you start educating people that they can better themselves, they're going to leave. But that's what we want. We want you to make yourself better, right? But at the same time, when you're educating them and you're treating them well, that reciprocates to your members, mm-hmm. right? Because if you just want to focus on the member, but who provides the service to the member? Yep. You can have 1,000 members. If you don't have the personnel to provide the services to 1,000 members, it's por gusto.
I'm with you.
You have nothing. So we took this approach to make their working environment better, to make them feel like professionals, because that's what you are. If you have and everybody's going to go through a stage, no matter how wealthy you are, you're going to go through a stage where you can't wipe your ass, right? And you're going to need somebody to help you go through that stage. Mm-hmm. So what you want throughout that stage is you want care, compassion, and somebody that's going to treat you like a human being and not like un trapo, right? So we started to implement that. And once you started treating them with more professionalism, humility, they want to work for you. Yep.
You're earning loyalty, basically.
Exactly. In an industry where turnover is like this. Yep. So that's why you asked me why, and that's why I did it, because once you can focus on them, they're going to bring it to you, and they're going to want the members to come to you.
Yeah. That's another thing. They're involved too with patients, and
100%.
And they got to pick an agency to take it to, because all of these are they're 1099, right? And they can work for multiple.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got to earn the right to do business with them.
Yeah. Usually people treat them like, oh no, they have to earn the right to work.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to be able to give back to them. You 100%. Know. So that's why we focus on them, and we're getting there. We're getting them to understand, hey, you're a professional. Respect yourself. Learn to respect yourself. Be a professional. Make sure you go everywhere in uniform. Make sure you get everywhere on time. Make sure you have closed shoes.
I love that.
Right? We educate them on the rules and regulation of the industry. So they know not just to work with us, but wherever else you
Take care of
go,
your license, you know?
take care of your stuff. Don't be doing this. Make sure you renew all your certificates. Things that weren't done before.
It's awesome.
Things that weren't done before. And when they start with us, they're like, man, you guys are strict. But once they get into the flow of things, they start working with us. They like how we work. They no longer they don't want to go back to old school way, because they're like, man, you guys are so efficient.
Because in structure, people love structure.
People love structure.
You guys are very structured, so.
Yeah, people love structure, which, believe it or not, being a police officer and having structure and bringing that into business, it's a completely different. When you're being a police officer and you're so used to structure and you bring that into your business, it organizes you so well. And it gives you like a plan and a thing that where you're like, okay, this is where you're headed. Don't deviate. Boom.
So we're in the recruiting business, obviously in my business, and some of the best recruiting prospects are former law enforcement, former military, former athletes. I know you play sports in high school, because a lot of the common like characteristics and the personalities of these people, the discipline, the hard work, the no BS, no tolerance. You know, you're a cop, you make one wrong move and you're in the news. So you got to be on your toes all the time.
All the time.
Those things translate well to business. And obviously, it looks like you brought that over to your company, which is great.
No, 100%. And when you use little things from here and there and you apply it into your business and you run your business according to what you believe, it's completely different than what you see on YouTube or you see on TV or how Wall Street runs businesses. When you're, I don't know if you've seen this, because while you run your business, when it comes down to it, you got to take some strategies from Wall Street. But when you're a startup that you're taking off, you got to implement your values and principles into your thing.
Of course.
You can't take Google and think that their principles and what they're doing are going to help you with yours. People won't believe, your team won't believe you if you're trying to copy Google.
100%. I'm with you.
So
I think the aspirations need to be Google. I think the vision could be Google, but the day-to-day and the values and what the reason you do it cannot be Google.
You're
not a Fortune 500 company. So,
you're not there yet.
And you need the people. I think recruiting is probably the most important thing in any business, and it gets taken for granted a lot. Because you can do this by yourself. You need talent, and you need the talent to want to work for you.
Exactly.
And a paycheck is not enough to retain somebody, clearly.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it never has been, I think, but now more than ever with the way the things are, and especially in your business, that there's so much like demand and places to go. I think it's fantastic the way you guys run it, man. I want to maybe turn the page a little bit. I know you work with your brother, you work with your wife, and then your mom's involved, from my understanding, in the company. Yes. How is it working with family?
It's intense, man. It's not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, you guys need to do it well.
Yes. You got to have some, I guess you got to have some boundaries, and you got to have some understanding between everybody. Our mom is no longer that into our business because we've kind of like retired.
Good for her. Good for you guys too. Yeah,
so she's kind of done, but it's me, my wife, and my brother. And man, you got to have this level of understanding that you're going to disagree. You're going to get into some heated arguments. You might not be happy with each other at times, but you got to understand that it's business, and you can't let it go into your personal. You can't let it go into your personal. The moment that you go home, you got to, whatever anger that didn't go your way in the business meeting, you got to just be like, let it go. I'm not the best at it. I got to thank my wife. My wife is really patient with me because I'm a very intense type of human being.
I'll take a guess. You're the one that gets the most mad out of the three.
Oh, yeah. I'm intense, man. I'm intense, and they deal with me. Yeah. So I got to say thank you to her and Gus, because they deal with me. I'm a very intense person. I'm like, you tell me that our goal is, let's say, 10 million in a month, right? I'm like, no, man, how about we go do 25? And they're like, are you crazy? Like, how are you? And then I'll fight with them. Yeah. I'll go back and forth on no, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this, but we're already doing this. How are you expecting us to? And it's a back and forth. It's a good back and forth, and there has to be a certain level of balance them, they balance me out very well because I'm intense for both of them.
Yeah.
And then,
but you push them, which is great.
yeah, that's one of the parts. But at the same time, one of the things that help us the best is three of us, right? So it's my wife, Gus, me. We need to agree on every decision. And if we don't agree, 2 outvotes 1. No matter what.
Yeah, and there's no ties because
it's 3, no matter what. There's no ties. So there's sometimes that I agree with Gus and Gus agrees with me and we disagree with my wife. Sometimes my wife agrees with me, we disagree with Gus. And sometimes my wife and Gus agree and they disagree with me.
Yep.
And the decision is the 2 parties that agree, they make the final decision.
So you guys voted. That's awesome.
That's it.
Well, like, it keeps you grounded and honest, obviously.
Yeah, it keeps you grounded because if they disagree with you.
Yeah, and to a point, there might be some like a valid reason why.
Oh no, 100%.
Or whoever it is may not see it that way.
Yeah, no, me, I'm like I want to get my way, and I get sometimes I get frustrated, but after a little while, you just got to deal with it. You got to understand that, and this is the other part. We all understand that we're all trying to do the best for the team.
Yeah, and I was going to tell you that I can't relate very well because my sister works for me, and my rule is whatever we think personally, the company comes first because the company's a baby that feeds all of us.
That feeds all of us.
So it's not about me or about you or about whoever. It's about the company. We all need to agree on what's better for the company.
Yes.
We put that first, and all of us are in business. We all get paid, and we all can continue to live our lives. So
100%.
I relate very well, dude. The heated arguments, the guys in this room right now have seen them. They've been part of them. They've argued with me too because I think I have like a close circle of people that I trust.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe in a different way, but I'm definitely a high goal person, and I'm very people say dreaming, I call it vision, but I have high standards.
High standards all day.
And we kind of want to pursue the standards of excellence that you spoke to earlier before we got on, and I deal with the same thing on a daily basis, and it's like we can do more, and I know we can do more, and we can do it better, and it's not because it's not good enough. It's because we're not there yet. Hopefully you're making 25 million, but I'm not making 25 million, so why not us? And it's always been like, I think back to a point that you touched on earlier about our parents and financial literacy. A lot of it is also like not believing that they can ever do a certain thing.
Agreed,
and,
100%.
One of the few books I've read, it was a Grant Cardone book. It was Sell or Be Sold.
Great book.
It was a fantastic. It's one of those things that even though you kind of know it, that book helps you. Like it just makes it click and it pieces it together. But it talks a lot about why not you too, and vision, and like everybody selling and help me understand that every time I sold you on coming to the podcast today. Everything is a sale, which not the point, but my greater vision from that was understanding that you got to believe it to actually be able to touch it.
100%. You have to believe it. You have to believe it.
And vision is probably one of your strongest attributes from what I see here. So
yeah, I have a big vision. I have a big plan.
What are the plans for you? Tell me about that. Like, what does Nelson look like 5 years, 10 years? Not just Nelson though. Nelson, Vanessa, Gus, the whole family.
The goal is to become a plan. The goal is to become an MCO.
Okay,
that's the goal.
Well, first thing is you gotta have a clear-cut goal, which you clearly do. So.
Yeah, the goal is to become an MCO. Once you become an MCO. You're talking about a different level of business. You're talking about a different level of life, everything. Because that's when in healthcare, that's top.
Yeah.
In the healthcare industry, you become a plan. There's nothing.
Yeah, that's the standard.
The gold standard. That there's nothing that supersedes a plan here, unless you're the U.S. government or Medicare or Medicaid. Right. But if you become a United, a Humana,
how involved you guys are, you might end up in politics, right?
Yeah, and Sunshine, that's another thing that we could probably talk forever about when it comes to politics, because I think once you make your actual fortune, you got to go into public service.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You got to go into public service, and you have to. Because I was reading this book. It's called The Patriarch. Okay. It's about the Kennedy family, how they started and how from where they started and how they got and how John F. Kennedy became president. Right. It started with the guy that made the money. His name is Joseph Patrick Kennedy. That was the dad of John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, Ted Kennedy. That was the dad of all of them. And they were able to do what they did in politics because this guy was one of the 15th most wealthiest person in that time. So they know they didn't have to go and raise money, and they didn't have to go and do this and that. So that's my goal for ELS. I think that we're heading in the right direction. We got a long way to go, but we're there.
I have no doubt you guys will get there, bro. You guys are very, I like to say maybe meticulous. Like, and this is, bro, I haven't talked to you in like 2 years, maybe here and there. Like, this is just from afar. What I see is so like, we talked about structure, but not just structure for your HHAs, even with the way you guys move, your events, I see you guys involved with the community and the Chamber of Commerce and all these events. And it's honestly kind of like common sense to a certain extent, but so many people don't do it. That it makes you stick out to people like me that they obviously are in the business world and are trying to obviously improve and get better.
Yeah, you got to be everywhere, omnipresent.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit of the challenges.
Okay.
I want to cover on challenge because obviously, you mentioned the first year, obviously you couldn't do much because you were nobody could teach you. But we talked about the first couple of clients, but you have not grown from where you were in 2020 to where you are today without some challenges on the road. What have been some of the biggest, I guess, challenges or learning curves or lessons that you've had over the last few years?
Man, challenges a lot. First challenge in healthcare is getting through all the regulation and making sure you're in compliance. That was probably, until today, we already have the hang of it, but compliance. Understanding the rules and regulations of your industry so then you can operate full force. That was one of the biggest challenges because I came from police. My brother came from sales. My wife understood business, but also was more on the sales side.
Yeah.
So we all had to learn a lot of rules and regulation in healthcare to be able to operate our business successfully today. That's one. The other part is when you're dealing with agencies that regulate, like ACA, everything is based on guidelines. So it's up for interpretation. It's not a set rule. So that was another hurdle for us because once they come and they survey you, right, you might think you're ready, but you're not, right? So one of our biggest challenges was that first 6 or 7 months of actually operating. Because once you go through the initial phase of getting your initial licenses, that's one thing. But once you start operating, that you have to have your home health aides come in. They need to have a certain amount of documentation. Your client folders need to have a certain amount of documentation. And you have to have that to make sure you're complying with the state and you're complying with Medicaid. You're like, oh, snap. So one of the biggest hurdles was one of the first surveys they did, we had like a bunch of deficiencies. This was before my wife really got involved.
Got it.
Because once my wife got involved, she was more meticulous and she organized us better, right?
A woman's touch.
Yeah. Before then, that first survey, we got a bunch of stuff. They were like, hey, you got this. We basically
what does that mean? Like, you don't get paid, you can't work?
They shut us down. They shut 90% of our business was shut. Wow. They were like, you can't operate this until you fix this.
Damn.
So it took us about 4 months to fix all that.
Really?
Yeah. And that's already what we have operating costs. That's what we have we were already 6-7 months into business. Like, we're operating.
I've been working already. And
we're growing. So it's like taking a punch to the jaw. You know, when you take one and you're on the floor and it's 5, 6 and you're stumbling getting up. That was one of those.
I can relate actually so well.
So
it's a great analogy.
We go and we fix it. It costs us a lot of money. And within 4 months, which is a relatively fast time frame, we were able to start operating again.
Got it.
But it was basically start operating again from 10% to build again.
And was it one of those things, and just for general education here, where they had a closer eye on you because you had already messed up, or once you fix it, you're good?
No, once you fix it, you're good. They're still gonna come and survey you. They'll survey you once or twice a year. but that's regular.
Well, now you know too. Obviously, well, not to mess up.
Well, not to know. We got consultants. We brought our standards up so high that we don't. You still care if they come survey you, but our standards are so high now that
you feel safe.
You feel safer. Now I don't want to say safe because you want to always have that little bit of
healthy paranoia.
Be a little bit paranoid.
Yeah.
You always got to be a little bit paranoid, which I'm not. I'm not that type of person. My wife is more paranoid than me, but I've learned in business to be I'm a super optimist, but I've learned to be a super optimist with a little bit of paranoia.
Yep.
And it's a good mix, especially in business. But that was a little nice boom.
Right to the gut.
Yeah. And
took your ear up.
But Joseph, it taught us so much, man.
It's better that it happens early, dude.
It happened early. We got in there. It helped me understand more regulation. I don't know how much time reading Medicaid and Medicare regulations when it comes to this sector. Packets and books of regulation after regulation. I'm like, this is never happening to me again.
Okay.
Never happening to me again. And now I know Medicare. I know Medicare guidelines, and we're not operating there yet, and I already know it. And Medicaid, I've read it like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. So those are things that I don't know if in your business how regulators work. But in ours, it's a big part because of the amount of money that flows in healthcare.
100%. No, very similar. And yeah, I've had my fair share of heart-wrenching moments too. Trust me, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it's the nature of the business. We get to benefit from all the good things, the residual, the money, the opportunity. Just kind of
100%. I wanted to ask because I've always wondered. Who regulates you guys?
Depending on the sector, but Department of Insurance as a whole. So in Florida's Department of Financial Services.
Okay.
But then like for health, AC, the Affordable Care Act, the CMS.
Yes.
CMS now for anything health related, it's really the biggest regulating force. On the life insurance side, is really just the Department of Insurance. But we work across states. So we deal with, it's not just one institution regulating us. It's each state has because everything's regulated at a state level.
Okay.
So we have agents that have gotten in trouble, like in Alabama, for example, and you can get shut down in a state and still work in the other ones. And so it's a lot to keep up with from a compliance standpoint. We actually have a compliance officer that their job is solely to teach compliance, to be proactive rather than reactive. And when those problems do come, because they always come, to make sure that we have a plan in place to address that, fix it, and show the Department of Insurance or whatever state that we care for our business. Because probably just like you guys, they start getting to know the agency. And, and they, it's one of those things now that if a complaint comes across the board, they're like, okay, it's them. So as long as we show that we're being proactive about teaching, educating, and getting it corrected, they are not as intense in auditing as they might have been in the beginning. But I've been to full-blown audits, like people coming to the office, sitting right next to us, watching our process from A through Z.
I didn't think that existed in life insurance.
It does. And It was actually the insurance carrier that came, but sent by the Department of Insurance.
So you guys are more because of the carriers can come out at you.
And they always could, right? But it had to do with, so we cross-sold a lot. We still do, right? So what you cannot do in any business is mislead, right? So we were cross-selling at such a high volume that they wanted to make sure that we were doing it the right way. And we passed the audit. We still cross-sell till today. But we sell, one client, we have a very good system in place to try to sell, 2 or 3 products.
Okay.
The word bundle is illegal in our industry, which was kind of like the vibe that they thought we were doing, just kind of packaging it up. But
everything together.
No, we have I feel like we changed some regulations from carriers because of the way that we move.
That's good.
But we go through it a lot. And maybe I think yours is probably worse because you deal with the patients. And you're actually billing like the big money. For us, it's more protecting the consumer than protecting the government money per se.
Okay. I wanted to ask because I'm like, man, some of these things and it's more because of social media. You see some of these people selling and I'm like, man, but they don't follow any rules. I'm I'm like, they got it. There has to be rules.
The FCC's been not with me, but I know of agencies having, even for recruiting purposes, having to change the way they post things. You're not even really legally. I mean, everybody does it, and we stopped because we found out somebody was getting sued for it. But we would post how much money we made, and that can be misleading, which it could be misleading because that's gross, not net.
Yeah.
So you made $60,000 in a month, and you're not saying how much of it came back and how much it cost you to get there. In theory, it is misleading, but the FCC is involved with a lot of those things. And making sure that you're not misleading people. So it is regulated, but I mean, social media is such a big, unless you're doing it at what I think is the people that got in trouble were doing it at such an insane rate that they caught the wrong person's attention.
No, 100%.
Because people still do it. I still see people posting how much money they make trying to recruit, and it's like whatever.
The thing is, I guess people might be able to fall because they don't understand the expense behind what you're generating.
Right. And nobody talks about that.
And nobody talks about it. Oh, no. I think that's always talking about business. I think people that start new business never understand how much effort it takes to actually get to a successful business, but two, how much money it actually costs. Like go do some the most funny one is watches, right? I was watching this thing the other day, and you assume you get a watch that costs you 10 G's. You get a watch and you're like, oh, I'm going to resell this. Or you're trying to purchase a watch from somebody to be able to flip it, right? People don't understand. To build that successfully, you have to invest time, money, effort. You got to have to understand watches. You need to know watches so you don't purchase fake watches. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to go buy a Rolex in, I don't know, Colombia. For example, at a secondhand dealer, I'm going to spend $5,000 and I'm going to come sell it in the States for 20.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
It's that simple. Everybody would do it.
Everybody would do it. And I think in the last 4 years, there was a lot of pretenders going into business. And now you're going to see the actual people from the pretenders in the next 4 to 5 years.
I agree, man. A lot of money got injected into our economy that allow people to act like they had things. Obviously, social media doesn't help.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, we're talking about the free money that they were giving out. Nobody wanted to work with the unemployment.
Nobody wanted to work.
The ones that worked and doubled down during that time, you're starting to see, who's
making it.
Yeah, I call them prospects or suspects. Who's a suspect, who's a prospect.
Exactly.
We do that with leads, but it's kind of the same concept with business owners or people that act like they got it.
To me, that time,
time tells everything, brother.
Yes. Yeah. Man, that 2020 time, I think about it now, it's been 4 years since then. At least in our business, the craziness that was going on during that time was on another level. I don't know how it was in your business, but in our business, they were approving everything. With Medicaid, when it's state of emergency, they don't follow the regular process.
Yeah.
They approve everybody.
Yeah.
That was insane. They were approving everybody regardless of the thing. They were putting everybody into these programs. And now in 2022, 2023, when they start doing the reviews of everybody that they approved, you started seeing everybody being like, okay, you no longer have this, you no longer have this, you no longer have this. And it shows how crazy those times were for everybody.
We're dealing with the same exact thing. So we had it's open enrollment for us right now for under 65. So
okay.
For Obamacare. It was open enrollment year round. and during pandemic, it's typically 30 days. It was now it's back to now it's actually 60 days. They extended it a month after all of that, but it was year round. And not just that, they were giving everybody crazy subsidies. So everybody had $0 plans. So what happens is a lot of people in our business started just racking up membership at $0 plans. So you'll have Menganito down the street with 1,000 members, which that's equivalent to $300,000-$400,000 a year in commissions for them. And half the time they weren't real policies. The people had it, the people existed, but they weren't even really entitled to it. CMS came in, started cracking down, terminating licenses left and right. And it's the best thing that's happened to us because now, the people that have real clients and the ones that we actually did the work and make sure that we got sold the right way, they're kind of separating themselves from everybody else. Just
100%.
I've seen, in my 4.5 years, I've seen plenty of people come up, say that they're better than everybody else, make a lot of money allegedly, and then close down a year later.
Allegedly. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
And then they close down. And then they leave and say the industry is the worst industry in the world.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to just doing it step by step and understanding that this shit is not cake and that you got to do, take the path of most resistance.
Yeah.
So it could last longer.
No, I agree with you. And I think when it comes down to most businesses, I think that you see the similarities when you start thinking. But one of the things, I don't know if you've noticed, but one of the things that people don't really understand, they don't understand what money really is. And I think, Joseph, when you actually start generating significant, you're like, damn, like to actually create wealth in this country and to be successful in business, you got to set some big targets. Because once you make $1 million, you understand how little $1 million is.
I agree. I couldn't agree more, actually. Yeah.
It's like, because I think about this is because I'm going back to the financial literacy part, is people think that when you retire with $1 million, it's a lot of money. But you're retiring with $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, whatever you're retiring with, if you have a decent pension, like that you have a job, a government job that has that much money set aside for you. Remember, once you retire, depending on what age you retire, you only have maybe 10 years left or maybe 20 years left if you're lucky, right? So it seems like a lot. But try to retire with $3 million when you're 33.
You'll spend it I'd spend that in a year. Like nice things.
Yeah, but imagine 33, divide that by 20. And how much money you can spend on a monthly basis within that.
I won't last you, man. And I think the problem I think it's a matter of getting there first, because my goal when I got into insurance was to make 20 grand a month, 250. That's, in my mind, that's all I needed.
Has that changed?
I made 20 and I was broke. So then I made 50 and I was broke. And like, it really took, like, I will tell you, for me to start seeing like, okay, I have enough to maybe buy a nicer car and a nicer watch. I had to get well past the 6-figure monthly mark. The business making that money. Because that's another thing that people are also confused.
Yes.
Just because the business made $1 million doesn't mean that you made $1 million.
There, 100%.
And you want to ask me the one reason why I've grown more than a lot of other people that do the same thing I do? Is because we spoke about it earlier. I put the business first. If I made $50,000 in a month,
back.
I pay my bills. Like you'll see I swear to God, you could look at my bank statements the first 2 years in this thing. 50 came in, 49 went out, and I didn't have no nice anything. I was driving the same Ram 1500.
100%.
And I did that until eventually I got, I called it I went from the building phase to the scaling phase, The building phase for me was 50 came in, 49 went out. 75 came in, 74 went out. Then eventually 100 came in, but now like you're keeping 25. And then 150 come in and you're keeping like
a little bit
instead
more.
of 50, keeping 60. Now you're scaling because now my overhead is not increasing at the same rate. My margins are going up.
100%.
And that's when I got to the scaling phase rather than on but the building phase do this. And that's where people fuck up. The expectation back to I've done projections for some of the like projects that we do. I know numbers. I do it conservatively. And I've been wrong every time. It's taking more.
Oh, way more.
And I am a realist. I am optimistic, but I try to do things being a realist, and I try to do them with budgeting. Okay, this is how much it's going to take. Any new project that I take on is taking at least double. So what happens to most people, and this is the one advice I'll give anybody watching this. If you did it the right way, and I want to get to when you quit being a cop, and then you allude to this, but what happens is most people think they're going to save up enough money, right, to leave. Okay, I'll save up, I don't know, 100 grand to go start X company. And they'll have this perfect bulletproof plan on paper that looks so good. I'll spend 20 on this, 10 on this. I have 6 months of operating expenses. And then, my cousin's friend's uncle is going to be my client because they already told me that they know me and they're going to do it with me. And then they start. And here's what happens. Business, it's like kind of like gambling a little bit. You run out of money. You got 2 options. You double down and you keep going, or you cut your losses. What happens to most people? They got to cut their losses because they ain't got no more money to put in. I have friends that today tell me they're saving money to retire and start a business. And I remember, the best thing you have in your position right now is your age and something that I call sweat equity. You got, time, because money, you ain't never going to have enough. You're going to blow through that money like this, bro. And that's the biggest mistake I think a lot of people make, because they think that it's very like cookie cutter. Like you cannot, I don't care how meticulous or how planned you are, there are variables that you're going to run into in your next phase of your business that you can even imagine are going to happen.
No.
And imagine a pandemic. Like, who would have thought that the world was going to maybe end? You know, like you don't really hear these things.
No. But I agree with you, Joseph, because I think people don't understand the amount of money that you're talking about right now and the amount of effort.
Yeah. And work.
And exactly. Work
the
effort.
hardest, dude. Like,
you're there. You think that it's going to take you 2 weeks to get this done, but then it takes you a month. Yeah. And then the bigger the project is, you're like, oh, it's going to take me this amount of people, this amount of time, this amount of... And it ends up taking you 10 times the amount of work and effort to get things done. And you're like, man, do I really want to keep doing this? But that's where the vision needs to be big enough to be able to get there. And I always like to see... I like to see you. I like to see some of the other people that I know that are doing businesses. And they're working, man. And they're working in the sense that they're not doing it to make some money. They're doing it so they can give something to their kids. They're trying to build something that is sustainable. Yep. And something might happen to me, and my business is still sustainable. My wife can still work. My brother's still there. The business operates. It is sustainable for them for the long run and the future of my kids. That's the vision that I had when I got into business.
That's the right one, bro. So, okay, when did you quit being a cop? At what point? Because I know you were doing both, and I remember you were doing both. What brought you to that decision, and how long after you started the company?
So I was doing both for like almost 2.5 years, where I would go to work as a police officer. I would take my laptop, and I'm working from my police car.
Crazy.
So I was in traffic. I became really good at running traffic. In traffic, I would go up to I-75 because Mikosuke had an area back there. Okay. And we would go up to I-75 and I would run traffic. So my thing was, you're going over 95, 100 miles an hour, I'm giving you a ticket. I think I'm being lenient enough. Right. If you're going 95, 100...
Yeah, that's just reckless. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving you the ticket. So my thing was, so I'm going to have time. I'm going to have time to work on my business while I'm in my car.
And in I-75, you're definitely going to catch people when they're 95.
Yeah. Oh, no, 100%.
What part of 75?
Like mile marker 50, where the Mikosuke gas station is at.
Yeah.
People were be flying through there, right? So the time that I was not putting people over I was in my car and I was working on the computer. Cold calls. Doing cold calls like there's no tomorrow.
That's crazy.
Imagine a police officer going into a business and you're doing cold calls. Right? For salespeople, it's uncomfortable to make cold calls.
You're in your patrol car.
I'm in my patrol car. I'm trying to make sales calls. I'm trying to learn how to sell being a police officer.
Yeah, which at the end of the day, before that, right?
I've never sold anything in my life. I'm learning how to sell. I'm learning how to speak to people. And I can't stand...
So where you're clocking people on the phone?
Yeah.
I got to go. Somebody's going 98.
Exactly. You have... And it's some of the things that gets me pissed off the most. People don't like salespeople. And I'm like, go be a salesperson. Yeah, go actually learn how to be a salesperson. Then you come tell me.
Yeah.
Come first learn. Don't criticize salespeople until you come learn what it takes to be in sales. Oh, I'm a business owner. No, man. You're a salesperson. You're trying to get somebody to come do business with you. You're selling your business 100%. To that person.
100%.
Learn how to sell. That's one thing. But I'm learning how to sell in the police car, right? I'm learning, I'm calling, I'm doing all these things. And while I'm doing that, I'm reading a lot of books. I'm learning about business, and I'm like, I'm not liking how the department is being ran. So once you start like independize yourself, you're being independent, you're running, your business is growing.
Yeah.
Not enough for you to quit your job, but it's growing. And you're learning how to manage people. You're like, man, this is not going right.
So now you're looking at it differently.
I'm looking at it completely differently. Like I'm like, this department is not being managed correctly. Right? So I'm like, you know what? I kept going. And one day I'm like, somebody told me something. And I'm like, I don't have to deal with this bull jive. I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to take this from anybody. I'm going to turn in my 2 weeks. And I'm done. At that point, which is something that I agree with you, our business was doing like about 150 a month. At that point, 150K a month. I was like, okay, I can probably I can get a salary somewhere near what I was taking
at least
home.
to cover your expenses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Somewhere near what I was doing in police work, and I bounced. I'm really grateful that I had that 2-year period of generating income while the business is generating income, because I was able to supplement. If my business needed anything, I could give it to my business, which I think people do it the opposite. They're like, I quit my job and I go in here.
Yeah, that's
no. You gotta keep your flow of money until the second flow is generating and is sustainable enough to cover your first flow. And if you can keep your first flow while this flow even increases even more, do it.
And was your brother there all along? Was it?
Yeah, my brother and my wife were there.
So your brother was full-time at the company?
Full-time.
Your wife too? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you were kind of like the safety blanket too on the back end.
On the back end.
And one less burden financially to the company too, obviously, because you had your income.
I had my income. But what people don't see is that I'm working daily, and then on my days off, I'm going to the office.
100%. No, what you did is twice as hard, because what you said is great. The part that I don't think you like emphasize enough is you're working 2 jobs, bro. And the second job, which is the business, is actually like not even double time. It's like quadruple time.
Quadruple, yeah.
Because it's yours.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that my wife and my brother understand that, I'm here, but my focus is over here.
Yeah.
And anytime, my thing was, so my police job was 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I would work.
4 hours. So it's 12-hour shifts.
12-hour shifts. I would work, get out, lift weights, come home, get on the computer. Boom. The next day I would be off, because our thing was you would do, like, for example, you would do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You would be off Monday, Tuesday, work Wednesday, Thursday, off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Got it. So rotate it.
You rotate it, right? So if I wasn't at police work, I was in the office. And then when I would get home from police work, I was on the computer, because I was trying to learn business from a different background. I didn't understand business. I didn't understand managing. I didn't understand profit and loss statements.
Right.
So the 2 years, it gave me a chance to transition over into. By the time I went full time, I had read 100 books in business. I had an understanding of how to manage people, because at that time we already had like about 100 clients, 90 to 100 clients we had. At that time we were already like creating this.
Yeah. Like it was no longer a dream. It was now a reality.
Yeah, it was it was turning into a business.
Right.
Because that's the other part. You're turning it into a business.
Yeah.
You're not a business if it's just you two or you three. It's a business once you have a team, you're building. That's when I was like, okay, I think I can take the leap. I can go from here to here, because I could understand already how to go into that thing. Because I think that if I would have just quit and gone into here, I don't think it would have been the same.
Yep, and I agree. I think, and am I on my time? I know I have an internal clock in my head. Yeah, because I know, like, we could talk as long as we need to, but somehow thing goes off in my head, and I know we're at an hour, which is what we shoot for. But I have 2 more questions for you. They're important.
Okay.
That you touch on. One is, so you read a lot of books. That's been like, you've touched on that, and I could tell you read a lot. I recruit a lot of people, and obviously, like in my world, everybody needs to think like a business owner, because and same in yours, obviously, you're teaching your HHAs to think bigger and treat themselves with respect. I see a lot of people that read 1 million books, watch 1 million podcasts, but don't do anything with it. Obviously, you've applied some action. Why do you think that is? What do you think is different from you to everybody else that reads but doesn't really apply what they read into their lives or businesses?
I think number one is the inability to make a decision.
Okay.
You have a lot of smart people in this world, but they're very indecisive, and they take super long to make a decision and take action on it.
Analysis by paralysis.
Yes. Yeah. One of the greatest things that I have is the ability to analyze and take risk. And one of the things that I got from Grant Cardone from reading his books is eliminate time from your decision making. Once I learned how to do that, it was like boom. Because once you read and you understand the concept of the book, but you don't take any action on it, it was pointless. It was worthless. So I've learned to, okay, I have this knowledge. What am I going to do with it? Okay, this can be applied here. Take the action. So I take the action and I live with the consequences and I live with whatever happens afterwards. And I think a lot of people in today's age have too much fear of what's going to happen if I do this. Hey, man, if this happened and it cost me $10K, hey, I learned. Ha! That $10K mistake is not going to happen to me again.
Exactly. And look what I tell everybody, because you're spot on. That's exactly what it is. It's a fear of failure, basically, why people are paralyzed. And it's everything's worst case scenario, too. Like, I look at it. If I got to invest $10,000 into something and I really want to know if it works or I really think it's going to work, what happens if I lose the 10 grand? That's always how I do it. Like, my risk is the 10 grand. So, and the time I'm investing in it. So, it's the world going to end if I lose the 10 grand? You know? And if it is, let's say it's my last 10 grand, and obviously it's different now, but when I was starting, I was already kind of broke anyway. Like, I always looked at it that way. It was a way I got to go and keep working, or I'll keep working because I want to get there faster. And you're spot on, dude. People are so scared of failing. And I know we have a saying here, you fail fast and you fail forward. Yeah. Because the more you fail, the quicker you succeed.
The quicker you succeed.
Yeah, and
I believe, Joseph, people, especially in the U.S., one, they're super comfortable. There's no more risk. They want to remove risk and they want to remove failure from life. And I'm like, what you have is slavery, man. Mm-hmm. You're a slave. If you remove risk and you just want something that's going to be comfortable, you become a slave to whatever you're doing. I am okay with taking risk. Me too. And I am okay with failure because I am okay with understanding that I can fix that happen. The other thing about why I read a lot of books is I want to learn from other people's failure. Mm-hmm. I want to, if you can read the autobiography on Elon Musk, the new one that came out. It's great. This guy wants to basically take people to Mars. How crazy is that, right?
Insane.
It's insane. But I'm learning from him in the sense that he has to deal with different government agencies that regulate him. Does that stop him from taking risk? So what I've learned from him, like for this thing, is you evaluate. Once you have, is it worth it? Make the decision. Say yes. Boom. Go. Don't worry about the what ifs. Yeah. Just, hey, these are your outcomes. Are you okay with it? Go.
I agree.
Go. Forget about every other thing that can happen. Just go. Go. And I've learned that from almost every successful book that I've read from successful people. It's the same thing. They're willing to take action on something that's unknown to them and willing to be okay with the consequences that come from that.
Yep. I think, dude, yeah, your self-development, obviously, I could tell, is something you spend a lot of time on.
Yes.
Have you ever considered coaching? Like, not you getting coached by a real business coach, not by one of these online gurus?
Oh, no, 100%. That's why I went to the Vault. Yeah. I'm also considering doing private.
So I'm doing it now. So I'll tell you my feedback on my advice. So I have a one-on-one business coach. Okay. And it's changed my life. It's changed my life for multiple reasons. One, because it's a neutral party that is not emotionally involved in the business that can objectively tell you when you're doing something stupid, when you're doing it smart. And at the end of the day, all she does is objectively tell you. You still decide yourself. One, but two, it's made things slow down for me. I got to a point, Nelson, where like everybody was looking at me for mentorship and what I do day to day, and I got bored. But more than bored, I wasn't looking forward to anything anymore. It's like I've mastered this, and it's still growing, and I could probably tell you how much money I'll make next year and the year after that at the pace we're going. But you know that thrill of like you wanted to read Medicare regulation books because you want to be the best at it, and I had lost that thrill. It was no longer exciting. I got up and it was like, this isn't fun. And I was seeking mentorship, and same thing, reading books, paying people online to talk to me it wasn't really working for me. And I'm like, what do I do? And the universe put that coach in my way, and it's completely changed the way I look at accountability, the whole nine. Yeah. I think you guys will actually tremendously benefit from it, and you specifically, because I also believe that for you to take coaching, you have to be you got to be at a specific, like in a mental space where like you're going to be receptive and you actually could use it. Because the flip side of it is you can coach somebody that doesn't want to be coached.
Uh-huh.
And you should look into it. There's a network of these people, and there's a bunch of them, and you can look at the one that fits your thing. And there's a bunch of companies, but look for a coach.
No, I'm in the process. I was actually thinking of doing private lessons with Patrick David.
Yeah. And the workshop. So we should look at that together because I want to do that. And I still do.
Yeah.
And
no, I'm talking about private.
Yeah,
like the 2 hours with him, one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at, because the workshops can be one thing.
But it's very generalized. I'm with you.
It's generalized. I'm looking for coaching specific things that I'm like, it's going to be worth the money that I'm going to be paying.
100%.
Because the workshops, I can bring my team.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, a lot of the workshop thing, and you're right, is a lot of it goes back to mindset and motivation, which I don't think you need.
Yes.
I think you're there already. You need actionable strategy that you could apply. That's why I felt.
And networking.
Yeah, that too, of course, yeah.
And networking. Like some of these like legitimate coaches, if you're getting somebody like Patrick David, if you're spending time, your business is, if you can pay him for 2 hours of his time, that it becomes very, very expensive.
That means you're doing good.
You're doing good.
Yeah.
But 2, I need to get around people that are 10 times more successful than I am.
That's the name of the game, bro.
And that is what I'm looking for. And I need people that are 10 times more successful to show me how to deal with certain things that happens once you're scaling. Once you go from 20, 25 to 100. You get what I'm saying? That's where I'm at, because I'm like, there's certain things that I still don't understand. To become a plan, you need cash.
Right.
1, you need cash, but 2, you need connections, and 3, you need to have a structure built in place to be able to take in the massive demand.
The infrastructure, basically.
Yeah, the massive demand that the government's going to ask from you.
Which also takes cash.
Yes.
To build it, and you need cash left for everything else.
To everything else. So that to me is the thing. How do I get there within the next 2 years and go from there? Why I'm learning this, and then why I want to meet PBD and actually train with him or have that specific time is, 1, I want to see, because within our industry, you need people that know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And he probably has the resources to understand
100%.
what businesses we are when it comes to consulting, right? That is one of the things. And then 2, the amount of people that he is connected to.
Connections, dude.
In the state.
He could lobby at the level that you need to get to where you want to get to.
And it's not even about lobbying. It's just maybe make some introductions.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, maybe lobby was the wrong term. He can get you in front of the right people.
In front of the right people. And then I can just meet. I don't need to lobby right now. I just need to go, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here.
I'm a player.
I'm a player. Hey, I'm here. And that is where, if you invest, let's say you do 3 sessions and you invest $250,000, right? Let's say you invest $250,000, but you get in front of the Santis, or you get in front of, for us is Aka. You get in front of Jason Wada.
Yeah.
To me, it's worth the money, right? I get a 30-minute conversation with that guy. I'm good.
Yo, let's tag those guys. Maybe you give me $250,000. So my question to you is, so you are a retired police officer.
Yes.
You retired in your 30s, maybe late 20s?
I was 31.
31. So in early 30s, you run a very successful business. What would your advice to somebody who was in your shoes, call it at 19, 20, trying to become a cop, because obviously that's what, maybe they can go make good money. But it doesn't have to be a cop. It's somebody looking for a career where they can make some money. If you could go back and give that person an advice, 19-year-old you, one advice, what would that be?
My biggest advice is don't have limited thinking. Don't limit yourself to your surroundings. Don't limit yourself to what your parents tell you. Don't limit yourself to what the people around you, your friends, your current friends. Let me actually make that. Your current friends. Don't limit yourself at all. And the second thing that I would say is go read as much business books as you can and download the Wall Street Journal. Once you are in that type of mentality that you are open-minded to money being abundant and not being something bad, your life will change. That's the advice that I would give myself. I think about it to this day, that question. I think about it. What would you do differently? And I'm like, oh my goodness, give me 10 years. Just give me back when I was 19 years old. And the decisions that you would make would be so different.
Absolutely. And what is one book for somebody at 19, not now, that you would recommend to start that journey?
I would always recommend the 10X rule.
Okay.
The 10X rule changed my life.
Okay.
The 10X rule tells you that normal levels of action get you nowhere. And what you need to do is take 10 times the amount of action that you think is going to get something done. You need to take 10 times and get that done. Number one book I would always recommend, 10X rule.
Is always compounding for sure, dude.
Yeah.
Nelson's been a pleasure, bro. You've been one of the best and easiest guys to interview, dude. Appreciate you coming on. I'm so proud of what you guys are doing. It's so good and so pleasant to see, man. And I wish you guys nothing but success.
Thank you, man. Likewise.